Yeah.
I don't care how good you are in anything. You don't have discipline. You ain't nobody.
Right.
You're nothing without discipline because you give up under the slightest struggle without discipline.
100%. One of my favorite sayings goes, little by little, a little becomes a lot. If you're at the base of the mountain and the summit looks a world away, it can be extremely discouraging to actually look up and see how far you have to go. Rather than looking at the top and seeing how much is still left, look down at your feet and make sure that you're taking one step at a time in the right direction towards where you want to go. That mountaintop could be literally anything. It could be the financial goal you're shooting towards. It could be the academic achievement that you're after. It could even be the better version of yourself that you're looking to grow into. Regardless of what that looks like for you, it's the little things that you do that are going to help you get there over time. And the worst part is, most people fall at the first hurdle in their day. As individuals, who we say we are or what we claim to be mean absolutely nothing. Rather, we're the result of the actions that we take and the little things that we do day to day. It's often easy to overlook the little things that don't mean much there and then. Pausing what you're doing to send off a little message, watching a quick reel that your homie sent you, telling a white lie that's innocent enough to avoid a larger conversation, and especially getting a quick 5 minutes of extra sleep once the alarm goes off in the morning. Growing up, most people would have watched the classic video of the Navy SEAL getting up there on stage and telling people that they have to make their bed in the morning because that's going to help them win their day. It's a classic and it starts with a strong message. Get your day off to a good start by getting a small win done in the morning and then use that as momentum to build up and build on towards the day. You want to stack up the small wins and ideally you can get your day started with that. Making your bed in the morning can be a good start, but you don't want to get carried away with a sense of achievement of actually having done something. It's definitely better to be done than to be left undone. But equally, it doesn't necessarily translate to bigger wins throughout the day. On the other hand, one simple thing that people tend to neglect every single day is something that holds them back more than they'll ever consider. And that is the simple act of hitting the snooze button. The story typically goes as follows. Anywhere between 3 to 10 alarms are scheduled to get you up out of bed, starting anywhere from an hour to 10 minutes before you actually plan to get up. The alarm goes off and you hit the snooze button, turning back around to resume your sleep before it starts again a few minutes later to further disrupt your rest. It continues this way until you inevitably hit stop for the final time, knowing that you now have to get up and get on with your day. That is the common experience of the average person getting up out of bed today and starting their mornings off every single day. If that's you, you're probably aware of some of the surface level reasons why that isn't ideal, but the deeper implications might be eye-opening for you. The biggest cost of the snooze button isn't even the disrupted quality of sleep, and even that isn't great. The few minutes of extra sleep that you get in the morning because of that doesn't actually make you feel more rested, and you actually need to be sleeping for longer periods of time to actually fall into any kind of deeper sleep for that to bring any benefit to how you feel. If you do choose to go to sleep for a longer period after the alarm goes off in the first place, you've automatically just disrupted your sleep and you'd have to go back into the state that you were already originally in before that disruption even started. At that point, you might as well not even have had that first alarm in the first place. And listen, I understand that it can feel nice sometimes to get that second sleep, and it does give an impression that you are actually resting better. But in the end of the day, it has been proven that it does not lead to make you feel more well rested. If the goal is to wake up feeling better, that is definitely not the best means to it. You may instead use the time between the snooze buttons to check up on social media, on the news, and the different messages that you've been getting in overnight. I'm not going to speak about how bad it actually is for your brain to be looking at these things first thing in the morning. But regardless of that, it's rarely ever anything that urgent that's going to require you to waste the first few minutes of your day and spend your time and attention as soon as you wake up that can't wait for a later time during the morning. Truthfully though, the biggest harm of the snooze button isn't going to be in terms of the lack of sleep or in the terms of the quality of it in the first place, but rather it's going to be in terms of the damage that it does for your discipline. I like to think of discipline as the thing that will get you to do the shit you don't necessarily want to do consistently over time because you know that the long-term benefit outweighs the short-term pain. Motivation is the thing that's going to get you to the gym every single day before you go on that exciting beach holiday that you've been waiting for. But discipline is the thing that's going to get you there during the winter months when you don't have anything particularly to look forward to. The beautiful thing about discipline is that it's a transferable skill that you can apply across all kinds of different areas in your life. It tends to be a trait that either you have or you don't. And it's rare to find someone that has discipline for a few things in their life while not having it completely in others. No considerable success can actually be achieved without some form of discipline. If you can't expect yourself to show up and do the work, especially when you don't want to, how can you expect yourself to achieve anything of significant value? Equally, it's one of the hardest things to truly master in life, and most people will never succeed in actually doing so. As much as avoiding the snooze button is a chance for you to build up your discipline, more than anything, it's a chance for you to keep your word to yourself. The single most important thing that I've found to be able to build up my confidence and my ability to get things done is to be able to keep my word to myself and know that when I tell myself I'm going to do something, I know for a fact that it will get done. As your alarm goes off in the morning, you have your first chance of the day to actually keep your word to yourself. You told yourself that this was the time that you needed to get up and get started with whatever you first needed to do that day. Are you going to be able to stick to it? I'm a big believer in keeping your word to other people because, especially as a man, if you can't be trusted to honor your own word, you will find that people will naturally be repelled by you. Even more than that though, if you can't even get to the point where you can trust your own word, how could you ever have confidence in yourself? How do you think you'd be able to communicate in a way that actually passes on trust to other people if the person knows that you can't trust yourself through the ways that you show that implicitly? And the craziest part is, that all starts with the snooze button, with your first action of the day, with the first decision that you have to make as you get up out of bed. So, how can you actually make it easier for yourself to get out of bed at the time that you told yourself you would? Studies, experts, and my own personal opinion have all shown me that aside from getting enough sleep and not being intoxicated while you do so, the single best thing that you can do to actually be able to wake up well rested is to go to sleep and wake up at the same time consistently every single day. At first, it might actually be hard, especially if you're trying to wake up earlier and you might feel more tired. But over time, your body gets into that rhythm and it knows when it's going to shut off and when it's going to wake up, which makes it much easier for itself to actually plan and be able to get rest properly. Going to sleep and waking up are two completely different things, and I like to think of them like this. Going to sleep is all about the systems and the structures that you put in place around you to make sure that that happens. The Netflix before bed, the late dinners, the social media scrolling, none of these things are going to help you sleep on time. And if you're serious about it, you should strongly consider cutting those out. Waking up on time though is all about identity. Are you the type of person that tolerates sleeping in and delaying the start to your day? If not, staying in bed isn't even an option for you. And it's as simple as that. The beauty of your identity is that it's not predetermined and it hasn't been set in stone. If you currently have 5 alarms and hit the snooze button on each of those so that you're waking up with an alarm every 30 seconds before you actually get out of bed, you can change that. You'll first start by waking up on time and eventually you'll become someone who wakes up on time. As a consequence of making these changes and adopting this attitude, you fundamentally change who you are. So many people don't think highly of themselves, and it's no wonder. People wouldn't think highly of you if you didn't keep your word to them. So why would you think highly of you if you can't keep your word to yourself? As you start to build up the discipline to wake up on time and that starts translating into other areas of your life, things will change. Your self-talk gets better. You build more resilience. You start seeing yourself in a better light. Of course, everything's easier said than done. It's a process and definitely not everything can happen overnight. But there are steps that you can start to take that can make a difference for you today. The first and most impactful one that I found personally was to download an app called Alarmy. Basically, what the app allows you to do is set up different missions for you to actually get out of bed and have to complete them before the alarm shuts off in the first place. What I do personally is I put up a QR code in the back of my bathroom door so that to actually be able to shut off my alarm, I have to already be in my bathroom and shut the door, and only then will the alarm go off. And by that point, it's much easier for me to start my day by brushing my teeth, going to the toilet, than actually open the door again and get back into bed, especially when I know that that's not what I want to be doing. You can set up your task with whatever you like. I just took a random QR code from the internet, printed it out, and put it in my bathroom door. But it gives you different options to actually be able to solve problems, take a picture of something already there, etc. But what I recommend is that you do something that actually requires you to get out of bed to achieve. And equally with that point, another key little thing that you can do is to actually put your phone out of your reach while you're in bed so that you can't turn it off and lay in bed at the same time, but you're actually required to step out of bed to be able to turn it off in the first place. Another thing that I find particularly useful to build up discipline across all habits is to track your habits over time. There are a bunch of apps that allow you to do this. I prefer one called Done, but you can use different things such as even Notion or ClickUp to build up your own custom tracker so that you can have a board showing you how many days you've already done something, the amount of time you've been doing it for, and the different streak and trajectory that you're currently on with it. Keep track of what you're building up. Track daily tasks like waking up without hitting the snooze button or waking up before a certain time or whether you meditated that day. And also track weekly tasks like going to the gym or exercising at least 5 times a week or reading at least 50 pages a week, for example. Keeping track of these over time is the easiest way that I found personally to build up the motivation to keep doing it in the short run while I build up the discipline to actually be able to make it a part of who I am. Finally, the last thing I'll say is what happens if you can't do it that day for whatever reason. And listen, things happen. Maybe your alarm doesn't go off, you've slept somewhere else that isn't your house, you're on holiday, you had a special occasion that you had to stay up for, and you only got home super late. If you can't stick for it for a day, either one of two things are going to happen. Either it's a small blip, or it becomes a total derailment. There are certain times where it's completely acceptable not to stick to what you had set out to do before. Shit happens, there's different seasons in a year, and in the end of the day, you're ultimately not superhuman. No one is. At the same time, it can be easy to start to get comfortable. And that can be easy to slip into if you forget why you started in the first place. If that's the case, then the best thing that you can do is apply the 2-day rule. Commit to yourself that you will not allow this to go on for more than 2 days in a row. Missing a day can be as little or as big as you make it out to be. It's just up to you to decide which it's going to be and how you're going to react to it. If you really want to look at it granularly, life is just a series of decisions that we make every single day that add up to result in where we are today. The fruits of what you do and who you are today are the result of the several decisions that you've taken in the last few years to get you up to this point. And equally, where you'll be in 1 year's time is the direct result of the groundwork and foundation that you start putting in today. Ultimately, if you make the right decision more often than not, you're going to give yourself a chance to go out there and achieve your goals. And it's often getting started with the little things, the private victories, that will allow you to build up the momentum to go further. Making your bed is great, but unfortunately, it's not going to change your life. Instead, start with forgetting that the snooze button exists and you could just find yourself on the way to becoming the person you want to be.